Okay, now we're here about additional facts about bonds. As you may have noticed, I did not do all of these recordings in the same day. I did get a haircut today. It is not a computer glitch or something wrong with your video. It is shorter hair. I did want to get that out of the way. You won't notice any additional changes like that through the remainder of these recordings. So let's talk about ratings and rating agencies. You're not going to need to know a huge bit about these. You need to understand what they are, what the sort of differences are, but you're not going to need to go into a huge detail on it. I've got details listed below. You can go and look at them if you really want to do more. It basically came from Wikipedia, so you're welcome to go and search on there, but you're really not going to have detailed questions. You need to understand that the higher the rating, the more likely the issuer can pay interest and principal. Ratings agencies rate bonds the same way that ratings agencies rate people. At least these are different rating agencies like Experian and those, where you have a credit score. And the better your credit score, the more likely you are to get a loan and the lower your interest is. Same basic idea with companies, except it's a different type of rating agencies, but the same basic idea. The better your rating, the better your credit, the less likely you are to have a problem paying, the history you have of paying. So the less the people who are giving you the credit, giving you the money, are going to necessarily want an interest. Now, the lower your rating, the worse your credit, the reverse is going to be true. Yeah, they're still likely to give you the loan, but they're going to want more for it. You have things called investment grade. That is when Moody's, which is one of the rating agencies, considers anything that's Baa3 and above, or S&P and Fitch's, those are the other two agencies, there's three total, where it's anything that's BBB minus and above. Anything else is called junk bonds or high yield bonds. Those are below investment grade. Now, don't think that junk bonds means they're junk. That's not the same word. I mean, it's the same word, but it's not the same meaning. It just means it's not investment grade. It's below investment grade. It's high yield. High yield, if you remember, means higher income. The lower your rating, the more you got to pay. When Elon Musk's Tesla issued bonds several years ago, they were junk bonds, even though it was Tesla that had a history, just not thorough enough to justify an investment grade. We have to remember risk and return. Junk isn't necessarily bad. It is riskier, but with risk comes greater return. Now, this is the entire chart where it goes, well, it's not the entire chart. There are some additional letters down here when the companies are actually in default or just coming out of default or not enough information, but we don't really need to worry about them. Anything above this line, again, that's Baa3 and above for Moody's, or S&P and Fitch's, anything that's 3Bs and above. That includes BBB minus. Anything that's below, and I believe that Tesla was somewhere in the double Bs, double B or double B plus. I don't really know. It really doesn't matter. But what you need to understand is what junk bonds, high yield, non-investment grade bonds mean, that they pay more interest, that they are riskier. They're going to have more of what's called credit risk. We're going to talk about that more in a later chapter, in a later section. But that's what it is. The same idea with a person, that they'll still get a loan, but they're going to have to pay a higher rate. And if the rating agencies didn't drop the kingdom's creditworthiness, the prince and princess lived happily ever after. That's not how you ever hear the true story of the way these end, do you? Now, we need to understand about interest rates, about bond prices, and about bond yields. If you watch the animation on the bond teeter-totter, you would have seen me demonstrate and show that when bond prices go up, we can see in the teeter-totter that yields go down. And when bond prices go down, yields go up. You can think about these as the percentage over here, the percentage over here. The left and right are both percentages. And when one goes up, the other goes up. When one goes down, the other goes down. The percentages move in the same direction. They move opposite the dollars. This is one of those areas where bonds get weird, that things turn around. Yeah, stocks go back and forward, back and forward. It can be tough to figure out necessarily where they are or going. But bonds move back and forward too, but sometimes they turn around. And so if they're turned around, facing the wrong direction and move forward, well, that's the same as if they're facing forward and moving backwards. So not only do you really have to pay attention to is it moving up or down, you sort of have to think about which way is the bond facing. That's the analogy I give on why bonds are more complicated than stock. Sometimes things are backwards than the way they appear. But you definitely want to make sure that you understand this. The basic reason is when interest rates go up, that means future bonds, the bonds that are issued after that interest rate increase, are going to be paying more. So why would someone give you the same $1,000 you paid for your bond a year ago if a new bond they could pay $1,000 for and get a higher interest rate at the same risk that yours is? That's why your bond price of previously issued bonds will go down. If interest rates go down, though, that means the new bonds are paying less than your bond is. Why would you sell your bond for $1,000 if someone who's giving $1,000 now is going to get less? You're going to sell it for more. That's why your bond price of the previously issued bonds goes up when interest rates go down. Definitely make sure you spend some time on this. Now, about how bonds are offered. Again, this is an area that likely is going to be purely definitional if you see it. It is not likely to be seen often, but it certainly is a testable topic and important to understand when you're dealing with the raw representative licensing of the SIE. But competitive is when the bonds are advertised for sale. Any broker-dealer may bid on the bonds at a specific date and a specific time. The winning bidder is the one who is offering the lowest interest cost. One of the things we have to make sure we remember is when bonds are first issued, outside of certain special ones, we're going to talk a little more about them starting soon, called zeros. We mentioned them before. We're going to get into some actual zeros in coming section. But outside of zeros, when bonds are sold, they're sold at par. They're sold at $1,000 unless the question states otherwise, but they're sold at $1,000. So you can't bid in the normal way on it by bidding different dollars, because the $1,000 is what they all cost. So the way you bid is offering the interest rates. For example, if you were going to go and get a loan and you talked to 5 different loan brokers, and one of them would give you $1,000, but you'd have to pay 7% interest, and another one would give you $1,000 and you'd pay 6.5% or 6.25% or 6%, you would take the bid that had the lowest interest cost. Same idea with competitive offerings for bonds. Negotiated is where the underwriter is actually selected. I believe this is how most modern offerings actually occur. An underwriter is contacted and contracted who knows how to do this, who's done this before, has a history of doing it. This is what they do. So they go in, they know what it is, they negotiate between the issuer and the underwriter. They include pre-sales where the underwriter is looking now for indications of interest to see how much interest is actually out there. Is this something that is going to sell? And if so, how much? What's the price that people are interested in at it? So they can go and start doing the research to help figure out what the best price is. But it's contracted. It's not bid. You pick the underwriter, you figure out which one, maybe multiple if they're forming a syndicate. We're going to talk about that a little more later as well in other sections. That's just multiple underwriters. But they're the ones in negotiated where they negotiate to figure out the pricing and everything. That again is now going to be bringing us to the end of this unit. I hope you enjoyed this unit, even though it was a rather short one. I'll be seeing you again shortly. Have a great day.